And welcome to today's episode of How to Get Away with Murder, Part 1.
Welcome to Comfort is a Coffin.
Welcome back to Comfort is a Coffin podcast, guys. I am Luis. This is Stephanie. We are your hosts. And this is Gil. He's a good friend of ours. He's going to be with us tonight. Going to be giving us some opinions. I'd like to call him our cultural contributor. Or cultural... what would you call yourself, Gil?
Well, when we were at work, we came up with cultural correspondent.
Correspondent. That is what we came up with. Thank you for that insight.
You're welcome.
We have a pretty good episode going on today. At least I like to think so. We might be a little late to the party, but we're going to be commenting on the Fet and Frisch. I can't even say it right.
Fresh and Fit.
Fresh and Fit.
Fresh and Fit. I always want to say Fit and Fresh.
Right.
It's Fresh and Fit.
Because Subway.
Yeah, because the Subway. That's exactly why, actually. We're going to be reacting to their commentary. Some of the stuff we've already seen. Stephanie has not seen much of this, so I'm going to be pretty happy to get her reaction. Not happy, but it's actually going to be
a raw
pretty interesting.
reaction.
Yeah. So that's what we got planned up. But before that, we are going to just kind of do a couple different things. Fuck. I forgot one thing.
Oops.
I forgot Can you bring up the Instagram post?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully my phone doesn't die.
It's okay. So I want to say one thing just at the top of the show. One thing I noticed, because obviously this is a small operation, very hands-on by just a couple people. One thing I noticed while I was editing is the last episode is just how dumb I sound sometimes. It's ridiculous.
I sounded like condescending a little.
No, well, I just wanted to mention that because there's so many times where I think I understand what you're telling me and I put an example out there and I'm like, yeah, like this, and you're too nice to, and you don't want to be like, no, that's not at all what the point is. And then you're just like, yeah, let's keep it moving. So I do appreciate you for being as patient as you are with me. But the reason I'm asking if we can get that post is because this whole last week has been about challenge for me. And this is the Comfort is a Coffin podcast, so I like to talk about stuff that makes me uncomfortable. One of those things in my life has been challenge, the type of challenge I'm willing to put myself through, and the type of challenge that I'm able to succeed in. It wasn't always as easy as it is now, but I wanted to read off a post that I submitted last week. It's on our Comfort is a Coffin Instagram page, so feel free to follow that. Currently, it's comfort.is.a.coffin. That will be different very soon. The post goes, why is it that challenges come at you the more you are able to get through them? As if the workload grows faster than you can finish. You work towards what you want, and the challenges only grow as you draw closer to the goal. Recently, my mindset has had a reawakening. My challenges are my teachers if I allow them to be. Through them, I'll face things I couldn't even think about. With them, I find growth. Take any challenge and use it as a stepping stone it should be. And I bring this up because for me, challenges used to be a really hard thing to overcome. I'd be very, what's the word? Just
scatterbrained.
Scatterbrained. No, it's more like just a lot going on under pressure, just overloaded.
Right.
Unmotivated.
It would be more. I guess I wasn't motivated. I mean, I find myself unmotivated a lot, and then it ends up being a cycle where I keep finding myself in these, like, no motivation. I don't do anything productive. No motivation. Don't do anything productive. And I've definitely found ways to get out of that rut. And that's a challenge right there too. I mean, just stepping out early in the morning, going for a walk can be a challenge that you set for yourself. And that does so much for you. I bring it up because I was just curious. Like, have you guys ever had any challenges? Something that you felt was tough to overcome? something that you've struggled with that maybe you feel a little uncomfortable talking about. You know, it is the Comfort is a Coffin podcast, but I guess I should talk about stuff that make me feel uncomfortable as well.
I mean, I guess I'll share something, right?
If you want to.
So, for me, I think my mindset and like the way that I am, like I'm very much like an unfiltered person, and I don't feel like any shame in like being who I am at all times, and I think that in general is kind of like a good thing. I think you should always just be who you are, but the older I've gotten and the more I've been able to like accomplish things that have put me in different places, I've had to learn that sometimes there is a need for a filter. And I think at first I was really uncomfortable with it because I felt like I was being fake and I wasn't being myself. But I think like what I really learned like out of that entire situation was just that the more that I'm willing to like filter myself and understand that what I'm doing is for a greater good, then the better off I'm going to be like in my life just in general. I know it's like a super, super like bland like experience because it really isn't an experience. It's more just like a life story, like wisdom that like I've gained like the older that I've gotten. But I can definitely understand like what you're saying when it comes to like going through periods of like being super unmotivated and then finding periods where I find myself extremely motivated and wanting to like do as much as I can to be a better person. But ultimately, I think we all go through that.
Yeah.
And I think that at the end of the day, as long as like you know that you're gonna find yourself somewhere, then there's no point of like giving up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Even if it's overwhelming, you're always going to find yourself somewhere fine. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I've definitely, like, I feel like since I've known you, I'll be honest, it's something that it's not envy, but it's something that I think like I think you have that not all people out there have, that I like to like see, which is what you just said. Like, a lot of people might just say you're a confident guy, but you're sure of your value at all times,
Right.
and you respect that value.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, it's hard to like respect your own value and to know what kind of respect you deserve, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, you know, it might not be, like you said, it might come off as confidence or like, you know, like even being cocky sometimes. But I don't think it's that. I think it's just like you said, like knowing that who I am is like good for me. And as long as I'm happy with myself, I'm more than happy in my life. Then I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I get what you're saying. Like it isn't envy, you know, because it isn't. I mean, I've known Lise for a long time. I've known Lise since I was like 18 or 19 years old.
5 years old?
Yeah, no, not 5 years old.
Nah.
Wait, was that you? No, just kidding.
Oh.
Were you the kid at the park? No,
I hope not.
no, but yeah, I've known Lise for a while, and I think like him and I are similar, but we're complete opposites in like a lot of different things. So I think that's what makes like the friendship work, and we work together. I mean, not to get too deep into like what we do, but we work together, and I think it helps us with like balancing off ideas and being able to like coincide with each other like at all times, really.
Yeah. What have you heard of Gil?
Me?
Yeah, from me.
I've heard that he's easygoing. He likes to bring up different points and kind of bring things to kind of like talk about.
I know.
I hear you're popular.
Thanks.
Yeah. I know that if I...
You should have saw me at your wedding.
Oh, that was...
I did see you.
That was a good one. Yeah, Gil was at a wedding. Yeah, it's good to hear. I like your perspective, man. That's the thing with a lot of people. I don't know what it is about maybe my brain chemistry, or what, just myself in general. It's definitely sometimes harder to have that confidence, and not just to have it like, right. And I'm just calling it confidence because it's like, I understand what it is, but yeah, it's like just a word, you know? But, and I can be that way too, but it's when I am that way, because I'm so sympathetic and empathetic, it's like I start thinking to myself, did I go too hard? Like, do I even know what I'm talking about? Right. And like self-doubt starts creeping in. And that's where it gets me, where like sometimes it feels like I cross lines even though I don't.
Even though you don't.
And sometimes I do cross lines and I don't realize.
Right.
And so it's like, it's just, I'm happy with the way I am too.
Yeah.
And I'm always in a good place. And that's just like being aware of what you go through is so key. Sometimes we don't even know what's going on with it in our heads, you know?
Yeah.
So at least I feel like I have an awareness of the nether regions in there.
Yeah. I know you're right. And like you said, I mean, ultimately, like, you know, feeling that way where like maybe you feel like you don't, maybe you feel like you did cross the line, but you didn't. I think a lot of that just comes down to like not being super sure about like the topic that you're speaking about. And like, I think being well versed in like a lot of different things is like definitely something that's super healthy because it allows you to have conversation with anybody. And I think that that's like something that I've always been able to do just because I've always been willing to like listen to other people's perspective rather than be like defensive about it. Listen to them and be willing to understand where they're coming from and then be able to like communicate effectively the way that I feel rather than them feeling like I'm trying to attack their mindset. Let them know that I understand, but I do maybe have like a contrary belief, you know?
Yeah, there's a good way. There's always a way to communicate that too.
Right.
It's like that's a lot of people that don't communicate. It's like you probably should, because the more you do, the easier it's gonna be to like get your point across.
Definitely.
Without getting on someone's not nerves, but just
but like
in
on
their
their
way.
bad side. We'll just call it that.
Exactly. I think it's pretty fitting the fact that we're gonna be reacting to this whole controversy. Like I said, a little late in the game. It was last week, but whatever.
But in the internet, that's like last
it's like
decade.
A decade, yeah,
Yeah.
It is. But it's fine.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty fitting though, because our first episode ever, we were talking about misogyny, and more than that, I feel like what I got out of it was misogyny in myself, not in a negative way,
Right.
where I hold resentment for myself, but more in a way where I'm becoming aware, and I can take ownership of my actions in a way where I'm holding myself accountable in my space, in my head, and physically, just in my relationships at work. It all kind of ties together. But it's pretty fitting because these guys, in my opinion, they're pretty much like crossing the line in terms of misogyny and not being able to own up to some of the things that are going on in their head. So
yeah, definitely.
It'll be very interesting to get Stephanie's perspective on this.
Yeah, so it's super important too to understand like what exactly this is. So Fresh and Fit podcast, from what I've gotten from like the small clips that I've seen, and I will say this, I'm not like super well versed in everything that they do, but from what I've seen on the internet, like through whether it's like Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of stuff, they seem to be these two people that present themselves as life coaches. For men specifically. So they basically try and tell you like, okay, this is what you need to do to be the best version of yourself that you can be. And it doesn't just have to do with like the way that they treat women or the way that they date. It's also like fitness and the way that you spend your money and things like that. So
I'm sure, I mean, let's be honest, some of the clips we'll see are, and I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, right, even though I really shouldn't, some of them are probably going to be out of context, and we're just going to show what people are reacting to and get our own reactions. So,
Can you exit your email out of the screen?
Where?
Right below there on your Google. Yep. Press the exit. Everyone's going to sign you up for spam.
Nah, we'll cover that with a watermark. Sign it up. I'm trying to get rid of that one, actually.
Shout out to all the spam.
Oh, it's getting a little old. All right. So, and you're right, because I kind of looked into them a little bit, and they promote like what seems to be this mindset of like being strong and being fit, and like you said, finance, and like it's not just like they claim that it's not just the same type of like pickup game that has been here before and kind of has diminished. Although I think it is kind of similar to that, where like the way that they talk about women is just a little demeaning in my opinion.
Yeah.
But we'll get into it. So very first thing that happened, which I guess was kind of what set it off, was a clip that came out from their most recent one of their most recent podcasts in the last few weeks, which was a podcast where first of all, they have like 9 or 10 people. Well, let's see. I'm gonna just let it play, and then we'll kind of go over it. Because I can't even do it justice.
I don't even know who she is, so I don't care. Simple. Damn.
Guys, sidebar conversations, please.
All right. What about
I've
you?
told you this is like, this is like the 5th time I've told you that, right?
Sixth time.
Like, stop. For real, like, stop.
He mean as fuck.
I'll just keep it real, man.
No,
Like,
but
you
he's
haven't been here,
cool.
so you
It's
haven't
just
seen
cool.
it.
About none of that
Cool.
shit.
Yeah, it's the whole show. Come on.
Yeah, she's been
We
doing
got
it the
you,
whole
got you.
show. I'm not mean as fuck. I just have rules. Simple.
First of all, in my opinion, that is mean as like fuck. Like, there's no way to tell someone that. Granted that they've been there for like 2-3 hours, and she's just kind of like commenting. Maybe they've told her a couple times, but this is kind of what I wanted to say. They have like 9 or 10 microphones there, 9 or 10 people behind a single mic. It's like, how do you not expect people to talk to at least something?
Right.
Shut off the mic, figure it out. You know,
Yeah.
like I don't know.
Why would you have someone on a show if you're gonna treat them like a bench warmer?
Right.
Yeah.
Like not give them an opportunity to speak.
And I mean, we'll see, but in my opinion, that's kind of what they try to do in a way to women specifically. But
All right, go ahead.
It's podcast.
Damn.
it's a
What I
podcast.
look for in a man
You a
in
mean
club
ass
that's
nigga.
like approaching me.
Hold on. Excuse me?
You mean?
I'm not mean at all.
Okay, I don't care.
Have you been here the whole time?
No.
All right, then. So you don't know what was
I
happening,
don't
right?
give a fuck.
Okay, then. So how you going to come on somebody's show, not know what go down, and say, oh, you're mean?
It don't matter. I can say what I want.
Okay,
Just
well, you can get the
fucking
fuck off the show,
freedom of
too.
speech. I don't give a
Get
Man,
off the show,
chill,
too.
man.
What?
Chill out,
Listen,
bro.
no,
So I don't know who is like also there. I haven't looked that far into it, but someone else is obviously like telling him, chill, dude. Like, we're good. I don't know if it's part of his crew, or if it's some guy that's with them, but it seems like he has an interest to keep things calm. He doesn't want anything to like.
Nah, you can go.
Chill. She ain't gotta
You're not
go.
going to come on the platform disrespectful.
Nah, chill, bro. She ain't gotta go nowhere.
No, she
chill.
could go.
Chill, bro.
I don't have to.
Chill.
Come on, baby. We don't have to be this
don't
mean.
give
We
a
can all
fuck.
be.
Listen.
Come on.
Chill out, bro.
Let's calm
I'm
down.
sorry.
He's hot. I'm calm.
No, I'm
We're good.
very calm, but it's like, bro, you got to show a little bit of respect on the
It
platform.
It's
is
cool,
respect.
bro.
You talking about
Chill.
funny shit. I say you mean. It is what it is. What the fuck you want me to say?
That's
You
not the truth,
mean,
though.
You mad about I said mean? You grown as hell.
That's so. Yeah, I don't even need to say much. Like, I feel like if you're gonna get upset about someone calling you mean, you're pretty much a child.
Right.
You should also like ask like yourself like, why are they calling me mean? Like, what am I doing that's coming off as mean? Because it comes off more like aggressive than
He looks.
Then,
He
like-
looks like he's pissed. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Like he's just like, why are you talking? It's like also like the microphones, you can control their volume, right? Like if they really wanted to
They
quiet
should
her
be able
down, they
to,
could have
yeah.
just like lowered the volume.
look, he's not even looking at anyone except for Fresh. He
Oh,
he,
yeah.
he does not want to make eye contact with anyone else or any of the women in the
That's
room.
the
seems
other
like.
co-host of the podcast.
Well,
Yeah, well.
Okay. So earlier on the show,
Fuck.
there's a little back and forth. So he was just telling her to chill because it was like 5 times we told her to like chill.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Okay, but I said he mean. Why he want to stop the shit?
Well,
do some dramatic.
because you don't know what was going on.
we are
I
hosting
don't
the
know.
show.
It's
I
good,
don't
though,
know.
bro.
Why,
Hey,
why would
yo.
that piss you off?
Chill, bro. It's
No.
all right. We all right. We good.
He want a
I mean,
moment. Get it slow.
We good. Let's keep going, bro. We all
I want to
right.
leave.
Let's keep the
No,
baby.
don't
You
leave,
got it.
please.
I won't.
Please.
Okay, just like from here on out, like please,
on his
one
ass,
at a
he's
time
tripping.
because we're going
Yeah,
to the show
we'll
right now,
start
okay?
it over. I promise I won't say nothing. I
This
promise.
is the 5th time. You
Okay.
said that last time.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, let's start
Go
it
ahead.
over. Okay.
Nothing wrong with that.
Listen, dude. Don't let them diamonds fool you.
All right.
Oh, I'm Bay
Super
now?
chats and then
That's
we'll
Nah,
do.
nah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would have bailed in that situation, just because
Eh.
I feel like it would look for worse for me personally. Even if I was like this is where when I say that I still have like some misogynistic traits, like where I'm working through, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about because, like, I can relate to him, and I know how bad
How
it
men
is.
can be.
I know how we can be
Yeah.
in general. And if that was me and I was able to get that upset by the situation, I wouldn't want to be there at all.
Right. You'd just get up and leave.
Exactly. Yeah. That I could see myself doing that when I was fucking 14,
Right.
15, right?
Nah,
Um,
I'm just talking in general. Don't get
the
me beat
calculator.
up, but
No. We end the show after this.
After this, okay, cool.
Yeah, 20 and up.
Netty pot.
Daddy pop for tomorrow
That's
morning.
messed up.
I need one. Venmo me or
Basically, it ends. He comes back in, but she ends up leaving.
Yeah.
So that's where the controversy starts. I mean, I'm sure she has a lot of loyal fans, and they were pretty upset the fact that she was mistreated that way, or just treated that way in general. There's a couple. So what happened was that came out, and then a lot of people started going back to like from a year ago, 2 years ago, looking through their stuff, and they found a couple clips where they said some pretty, I would say, pretty nasty stuff.
What about the black dating app called Black? Oh, it's funny. I never used that one, bro. But hey, man.
I mean, hey, bro, if you want to date a bunch of Shaniquas, go for it, man.
LaQuisha.
Yeah, like me and Fresh aren't really down with the brown like
Nah,
that.
man.
We ain't night riders.
Nah,
so
bro, I'm good.
You know, sometimes if they're red bone, but like in general, me and Fresh don't dabble in the dark. If you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
Okay, so last.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ew.
How does that make you feel? Just like from a woman's perspective.
I feel like I wouldn't like seeing them like act like this, like the guys that I would assume people are like swiping right on Tinder or something, or people like hitting them up, or like I can see them being like sought after by different women. But the fact that they're confirming why I don't go for guys like that is just, it just confirms what I've been thinking all along, that they really just are very like depending on the guy. Every guy's different, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But I do notice it like in brown communities that there's brown guys that don't go for darker women. And like, because I've experienced that in my own community, like Latino Mexicans, like it just confirms it, and it further makes me feel like, okay, I'm glad I didn't go for guys that look like that or acted like that, or
And you've had your fair share of people acting similar to that, right?
Yeah, and it's just like it leaves a taste in your mouth where you can kind of like identify that when you see men, because it's almost like a scent at that point, the way you grow knowing that the guy doesn't like darker women. And the fact that they're calling themselves night riders is just like not night riders. Is just like, why would you come up with that term, like as if
right.
Well, I think
like as if we chose to be dark.
Yeah.
There's
The term
nothing
itself,
wrong with that.
not
Sorry.
to say that it's okay. Well, we're probably gonna hear that term again, because I wanted to thank you for letting us know about this podcast episode, because thanks to Gil, we're reacting to this, because there's a lot of good, interesting stuff to look into here. First of all, Andrew Schultz and Akash Singh.
Yeah.
They're both really cool people. I honestly really, just like most comedians in general that I see with their own podcasts, are usually pretty interesting, level-headed people, even if they say some wacky stuff from time to time.
Definitely.
Andrew Schultz is one of those guys, super intelligent, always says things in such a way where he can't offend people almost. So it was really interesting to have them come on his podcast, and because I knew that, like, as soon as he told me about it, I knew that it wasn't going to be something where they were going to be super easy. Yeah. And they're going to be joking about it also, but
yeah, there's like people where you would say like they have like a cultural, I guess you'd say like intelligence, or like being able to like, you know, interact with multiple cultures. I would definitely say that like Andrew and even Akash, they're like elite when it comes to being able to understand other people's points of views. So I think you're definitely right.
I think you're right. I mean, that comes off of them. Like, you could just tell. Yeah. I mean, Akash specifically too, because he's
a minority.
And, exactly. Yeah. So let's just get into it.
I want to pull that clip.
But don't you think the issue is you guys just declaring that you don't really date black girls? Don't you think that's what people are upset about?
Well, I mean, at the same time, we have preferences, right? And we have standards. But, you know, we were kind of joking because of the black dating app per se. We're like, oh, we hate black women. It's more like, okay, we don't really date like hood black chicks per se, like LaShawn and LaQuisha. But it wasn't like we hate black women. It's like they took it that way because of Asian doll, but we didn't say we hate black women.
Right, but you would date black girls, is what you're saying.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, we have in the past,
bro.
It's not our normal preference.
At a yacht party, bunch of white girls. I was in.
So like at that point, like I feel like they're basically saying like, yeah, okay, we'll date black women. So it was a joke, right?
Yeah, it's a cop out.
Yeah.
And the only black girl there.
Right.
It's like, bro, I don't hate black women. My mom's black. My sister's black. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Weird.
It's just like, you know, they're going to sensationalize it, paint this narrative that you guys are racist, take a 10-second clip. And here's the thing. If anybody watches our podcast, we're kind of like you guys, very politically incorrect, make jokes.
That's the thing. I never criticize people for jokes.
Yeah.
That's the. I'm not gonna. But then again, we might have different prerogatives with the podcast. Like, I think you guys are more in like a life coaching space and like helping guys become the best version of themselves. And we are comedians that just say fucked up shit all the
And I
time.
think-
It's literally called flagrant too. Like we are being flagrant on purpose, so you're gonna be treated with different expectations.
Of course. And the thing is this, like, I make fun of everybody. You
But
know,
go into the preference thing, man. Let's talk about what
I make fun of everybody. So it's like
fuck that
when they-
preferences, bro. Like
preferences.
I want to
here's
know
where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
I like that Andrew Schultz is like pushing it because like they seem to be steering away from like answering the questions in a way.
Yeah, that's kind of like, for me, the way I see it, coddling.
Right.
Yeah.
Like protecting him rather than just being like, the way you said that and the fact that you had to say it, to say that you don't date like black women or like,
yeah, I mean,
even what he thinks is like a different woman completely is hood woman. It's just,
I think he's definitely trying his best to make it to where the interview happens.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like, it's tough in a situation like this. Because he could feel like way more divisive about it than he's necessarily indicating.
Yeah.
But I feel like he kind of has to because he's a comedian. And, you know, on this podcast specifically, it's like a podcast where they talk about stuff that's like outlandish. They're able to say stuff like that because that's what they're known for. I mean, they're saying it themselves, right? Like they're the same expectations to what their podcast is aren't put to their podcast necessarily. Because those guys are life coaches.
And these guys are comedians that happen to have a podcast that, you know, gets millions and millions of views. And I think also you think of it from like the point of like Andrew, where he's white. He's a white guy, and trying to tell like a person of color how to, like, the way that they like think is wrong in a sense, kind of like puts you like in a place where you don't want to be criticized for being like not racist, but you know what I mean, like for being like even profiling someone or having those kinds of thoughts.
the thing that weirds me out about it too is that they're considered lifestyle coaches, but the thing is with that, it's other people are following their lifestyle and continuing on those morals and then passing it on to other people who have taken it to the extreme where they're like, they specifically hate you just because of your skin color as a woman. And
well, they see a woman as an enemy.
Yep.
When it's like, if you're trying to build a life with a woman and have a woman as a wife, then like, why would you
do that?
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's so easy for them to just continue on with the conversation. And like, again, you said it was to elongate the interview and to get it as much as possible.
Yeah,
but
at least that's in his position. That's what I would do. Like, I want to have conversations with people that make me feel uncomfortable, even if I have to make them feel like I don't necessarily completely disagree with them.
Yeah.
But there's boundaries.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, it's like there's certain things you can't go along with willingly, and this might be in the gray area. Sure, you know, it also depends on experience too, because like you being a woman, you have a completely different experience just in general than we do, and you're gonna have a different reaction in general. Although we should have the same reaction.
Yes.
And there's like another voice in the back of the podcast that you can hear from the what we're watching. That deeper voice that you hear, that is like a producer of the podcast. And he happens to be like a black man, so he has like his own perspective as well. So when you hear that person in the background speaking, that kind of gives you context as to why he felt that it was a super divisive conversation that they were having.
Yeah, I think he might come out. I'm not sure exactly when, but I feel like there's a couple parts in there.
Yeah. I don't have a problem. Well, I'm not saying I don't have a problem with the joke, but I have empathy for trying to be funny, and then it comes out fucked up, and then everybody's on your neck.
Exactly.
That's something. Al can speak to black shit a lot more. I can speak to, you're trying to be funny. It comes out fucked up. That's not what you meant. What I don't like, what I find corny as fuck, is my preference is not my women. Now, I thought it was I'm not dating my women, period, which is the corniest human being outside of a criminal to me, period. It's just, those are your...
I don't remember him saying that, but that's hilarious.
Yeah. Your roots. Those women are reflected in your roots. So if you're saying, hey, I don't generally date them, but I have more space for it, even though I still think it's a little corny between... That's just my thing.
Like, Akash is the extreme. Like, Akash only dates brown.
Oh, okay.
Akash has been with one girl in his life who is his wife.
That's my wife. That's an
so
Indian
this
woman.
is
That was
like
important
loyal
to me.
through and through.
And I understand it's not as important for y'all, but as an Indian, there's not a lot of us who are famous. So whether you like it or not, people are looking at you as a role model. You guys have established yourselves as role models. From simps to pimps. which is another motto I find kind of corny, but I looked into what you guys are about. And a lot of the shit is just childish, which is fine if you want to be funny. We just talked about how doctors ain't shit for 45 minutes. We are not in any way life coaching. We are not in any way trying to help men outside of, hey, come have a laugh for a couple hours. If you're going to paint yourself as life coaches and then say shit like, you know what I mean? I just don't really fuck with black girls like that.
I guess my like.
Yeah, I think that was where that clip ended. Because I don't want to go through the whole thing. I just kind of want to highlight certain parts.
Yeah, definitely.
And this is
Street.
fresh.
So what we said was kind of like, I want to say, not funny to them, but to us is like, we're just cracking jokes, trying to be.
You're being hyperbolic about your dating preferences.
Yeah,
right. That's kind of how I took it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I think I think you can understand how the internet might have taken it, right? And then doubling down and being like, it's okay to have this as a preference that you like. Usually, your preference is what you like, not what you don't.
Exactly.
I think that was the biggest issue. Like, if you just like, hey, my preference is I kind of like Latinas, I don't even think you get any pushback. But saying my preference is I don't like that. That's, I think, where people start to feel rejected, and then they go, "Why don't you like me, man? Like, what's wrong?"
Oh, and that's what you were talking about.
Yeah,
right?
that's Alex.
The way they said they didn't like it, like that's what I was like bothered by the clip. It's like, you guys go out of your way to say what you don't like, even though that's not what you're discussing. It's like your preference is what you do like, but then the way in which you went about how you don't like black women. Oh, I don't like the ratchet. I don't like the ghetto. I don't like the Shaniquas. Like, that's like, if you were a white person saying all that, that's racist shit.
And did you want to say anything?
No, let him continue. Carrying
Like,
him
preach.
And I'm just disappointed in you guys as black men to be talking about our sisters like that. So you don't have a problem with the way you spoke about your sisters like that? Like, if it was him saying the same thing, you would be upset.
No.
So
No, I like it.
Well, at least it was a quick and short answer, right?
Yeah, he didn't go into some bullshit. Or he might. We don't know. Let's see.
he was like, oh, I don't like ghetto black women. I don't like Shaniquas.
It wouldn't bother me.
That's a preference.
Wow.
Because the thing is that
That's lame.
Yeah, that's it. Like, the one thing that when they were leading up to him's like, that's a preference. Like, they literally just talked about how, like, a preference normally is not
what you don't like.
What you don't like. And, like, I had never known that.
The only thing
I had never known that. That concept makes total sense in my head.
Yeah, because you never really think of it in that sense. Because, like, for us, most of the time, like, our preference isn't about what we like to date or who we like to date.
Yeah.
It's more like about maybe like the food that we prefer to eat,
literally,
or like the drinks that we prefer to drink.
I was gonna say they're treating women like vegetables.
Yeah, like
what,
I don't go to
what
the.
is that?
I don't go to like Mickey D's and be like, yeah, I don't prefer the chicken nuggets, so I'll just take a Big Mac. No, I just go, hey, can I have a Big Mac? Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
No, what I love about his point of view, the producer, is just that, like, he was like telling him exactly what was incorrect about his point of view, and instead of listening to it, he only listened to the last question where he was starting to defend himself. Because he's like, oh, this is the only question that he's really asking me. Instead of asking him, like, did you take time at home to evaluate what you said? You know, instead of coming on these all podcasts and, like, reviewing what they said, they're not really taking the time to think about what was wrong about it, and then thinking, like, maybe I should consider that. Because, like, regardless of it being the internet, it's still people at home who have lives and deal with men like this every day. They hear men like this at the gym. They hear men like this at school, especially in high school. And it's like, these are the men's expressing their opinions and teaching younger men how to live, how to be, how to be fresh and fit. And the thing is that you're being old and inauthentic and completely pathetic, because it's like, why would you want to exclude like a type of woman, like a type of black woman, rather than just saying like, oh, because they were really just talking about an app, right? A dating app when they started talking about that.
Yeah, so I think it was a website when they started.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where they've mentioned like an app, but the black comments, like the Knight Rider comments, were because apparently they were on, like, someone told.
I think it was Hinge.
Hinge?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hinge or like Tinder, one of those apps where it's basically like I mean, I think most of us know what Tinder and stuff is, but if you don't, it's like an app where you basically, it's like the most vague app in the world where you go based just off the way somebody looks, because it's just pictures and like a small bio, and then you choose whether or not you like somebody.
Yeah. And so I guess the way they were like talking about it was just like, why did you have to talk about black women all of a sudden? Like, it's not really about what you mentioned as a preference. It's the fact that you did mention it as a dislike, or I'm twisting myself there.
No.
Basically, you just mentioned it to say that you dislike it. And it's almost like
You went out of your way to.
you went out
to
of your
say
way
that.
to say it.
Yeah,
you
he
know?
made it a point to confirm that he does not like these type of women.
Yeah, like this is an example of like this type of influence. For example, when I was in middle school, 7th grade, there was this guy who liked me, and I kind of liked him, but I wasn't sure. And then like he would say that he liked me, and he told other people, and other people would be like, "Why aren't you guys going out?" I'm like, "I don't know. He's not asking me out." No big deal. I didn't care because I was just like, it's not gonna happen. I'm in 7th grade. I'm scared of getting pregnant. I don't want to date. Like. But he literally said to me, and he was darker than me, and he says like, "I don't know how my family would feel if I started to date you because you're dark.
Oh, wow.
You're too dark for me." And it's like, why was that pointed out to me? You could have just said you didn't fucking like me.
And that wasn't even a race thing, right? Because you guys were both probably Hispanic.
Regardless of it, like, well, part of it, actually, a majority has to do with that. The racist concept there is like, he got those racist beliefs from his family's culture, from also my culture, which unfortunately includes that type of Spaniard influence in there, where it's like the more fairer people are seen as more royal, more rich, because they weren't seen as working out in the rancho or like looking like the natives.
Yeah.
And so they saw that as a form of like a stepping stone. So dating a lighter skinned woman is a stepping stone in social.
Yeah, I mean, even in the U.S., I feel like that pattern still is seen. It's still observed in a way.
In a way, yes. Yes. So kind of like how they were talking about the darker women, or just in general mentioning black women, it's like, why did you have to mention the dislike? So this guy, what he was saying to me is like, I dislike your color because my family told me I'm supposed to dislike it. And rather than like thinking about my feelings, which I thought this was the harsh part about that comment, you didn't think about my feelings, how I would feel about that. That tells me he didn't give a shit about me. He really only cared about like looking at me or using me. Because if you would have like thought about that response in your head, how it was going to sound like, it could kill someone emotionally. And it did hurt me a lot. And I hated him for that. And I never talked to him again. I got annoyed by him every time I saw him. He would try to say hi, and I would just be like, no, I want nothing to do with you. And I did tell my mom about it. And really what she said, she's like, you keep staying dark because you don't need people like that in your life. Those people, shit, mierda.
Yeah.
Like, leave them out of your life. Don't. Because it's like, and then the thing that scares me about that the most is the fact that that guy is probably the same one there that could have done it to someone else in middle school, high school.
And they could be teaching kids how to do it too. Because like the way I think about it, a lot of the times kids are all over YouTube. Kids are all over like podcasts, even more than like some of the older people. And I feel like even though they might not own up to it, like a huge majority of their audience are younger men.
Yeah, definitely.
In general, which is, I mean, a very good demographic to have a hold of. But when you position yourself in a way where you're supposed to be a role model, it's really disgusting to see this.
Yeah. And on top of that, with those types of opinions, it could lead to a lot of like a form of bias discrimination with like people who are in pain. Like women who are darker, like they're not as attended to as light-skinned women because their pain isn't seen as valid. And there's a reason for that in medicine. In one of the medical books that I saw was that, I can't tell you which book exactly, but they do teach doctors this, that basically like darker skinned people might not have a bigger pain tolerance than lighter skinned people. Like why would you have to say that? Like, why? And then, so with the whole colorism thing and the woman thing, it's like those type of opinions, just a simple opinion like that, just discriminating goes a long way.
Well, isn't there like a statistic that says that darker colored women die more often during all types of procedures, like pregnancy specifically?
Especially back women, yes.
Yeah. Just because, I mean, it's just, it goes right down to it. They're still
Yeah, and then the thing too that I experienced at the gynecologist is that they will not mention the things that are uncomfortable with procedures because they know it's going to be bad. But they especially don't say it because they tell women like, "Oh, you can tolerate this pain. It's cuz you're a woman. It's fine." Like like what would you say that to a little boy or to an older man you're about to like
I've never
give
been
an
told that by a
injection to?
doctor like before procedure, like you'll be fine. They're like, you need drugs.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and so like with things like that, it's like it doesn't just affect like one thing, your dating preferences. It affects your decisions at work. It affects your decisions when like asking people for help out in the population, being making yourself available to help them. So that's what I hate about these men or the type of things they're putting out there is that so many people are listening and so are women. And the women are directly telling you like why it's bad, why it's incorrect, because it leads to more bad decisions. And that's when like the pattern of behaviors, like it should be seen all across the board. It's like one little drop makes a huge difference. You know, one little drop makes a whirlpool where it starts making waves.
Sometimes I try to see it like as an optimist where I tell myself, oh, well, maybe not that many people actually watch them and like intake it as much as like you would, we would like to think. But the way you're phrasing it makes me feel like that. Yeah, of course there's still an impact because like even just word of mouth, even just like relationships, not where you're like necessarily changing some kid's life or having someone make radical changes, just the way they see simple things will like it could literally. Like if someone found themselves in a dangerous situation, they happen to be a minority, that's a kind of mindset where like they might not find the help by a random stranger that could have helped them like avoid any, I mean, I'm being very vague about the situation, but I get what you're saying.
Well, basically what you're saying is that this can like assert like the doubts that you have in your mind if you were to come across this as a person, like let's just say you were a black girl that you felt this way, that nobody liked you because of like you were darker skin and whatever, right? You were from somewhere where people thought you were ghetto and all this kind of stuff. If you saw this clip, you would say to yourself, okay, this reassures to me that there will never be a man that is fresh and fit that will love me or care about me and that kind of stuff. And I think to be fair, you have to think of it as like not necessarily just like the men and it's everybody, right? It's men and women.
Yeah.
And I think like we all need to like understand that like these conversations are the ones that need to be held, like that make people feel uncomfortable so that we can see that there is still that problem going around, because I think a lot of people just swipe those things under the rug. They just think like, oh, most people nowadays are pretty like, open-minded and stuff like that. But there is still like a lot of kids that they might come from homes where that isn't like a possibility for them to be open-minded.
Yeah.
They have to follow the rules of their parents, because if not, then they might not have a place to live,
Yeah. I mean, like even if in my generation, like I grew up with a family where my dad was very machista. He was very like misogynistic in his own ways. He was an alcoholic. Like he'd beat people. Like one time the neighbors, because he had taken pain medication, didn't realize you're not supposed to drink with it, and he was having like bottles of tequila. He like beat the shit out of the neighbor, and like that's when he stopped drinking. Because like literally he could have killed the guy.
Yeah.
And like, so like, I guess it's not that surprising that like since it was in my generation, but even though I'm not going forward with it and I'm trying my best to not carry it to like my children in the future, like obviously it's still out there. Yeah, we just like to have an idea that I guess it's easier to sweep it under the rug.
Like you said, we like to be optimistic.
We
like to think that like the world is like a very like cushy place, when in reality there's like a lot of things that are wrong, but maybe we just don't highlight those things because we just want to live our day-to-day life.
Yeah. I think what helps is giving hope, at least for me, is that there are people capable of not being that.
And in a sense, think about it this way too. Like this is kind of like good that there are people that challenge their viewpoints, that are famous, that do have like a influence on like kids. When they see this, they can be like, oh well, Andrew and Akash, they're right. Like, why do they think that way? And then because like in a way sometimes it is like from bad comes good. I definitely think that that's something that's true.
Yeah.
And also these guys look like the kind that will like message you, and then if you don't respond right away, they'll call you ugly.
Yeah.
I've had those so many times before, and it's because I didn't know what to respond, or I would just forget, and I'll be like, nah, they don't need to respond
Has
right
someone,
away, and then they'll
straight up insulted you for not responding?
Yeah, there was one guy, he was just like, hey, beautiful, how you doing? And then, like, I was walking across the street and I saw the message. So I'm like, I'm putting my phone away because I'm crossing the fucking street. If not, I'll get hit, you know? So while I'm crossing the street, I hear the ding, ding, buzz, buzz, like 2 times. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. You know, it's probably like the weather app or whatever. Yeah. And so, like, I go into the gym and then I'm reading his message. He's just like, oh, you know, you're fucking ugly. I really don't want to talk to you. And then he started saying, like, you probably like white guys. Because he was, like, you know, brown, Mexican, like cholo looking a little. But the thing is that I wasn't bothered by that at all. I was going to respond. But the thing is that by his eagerness and by his, like, shadiness and just, like, thinking that I think I'm better than him, like, really just confirms, like, yes, I am better than you mentally, because I wouldn't fucking send that message to people, like, after they didn't respond to me, like,
in like 2 minutes.
Like, what? Like, how pathetic do you have to be and, like, need that validation from another person? And it's not even the fact that I'm a woman that I'm putting it out here. It's like I'm putting it in factual terms so that, like, this specific human man, like, responded to me this way because I'm a woman. Also, he saw that I was brown, so he wanted to point that out, that I was preferring white guys over him. Like, why did you have to do that? You could have just gone out of your day by not raising your blood pressure and sending that message. And I was just, like, responding to him, like, you know, girls don't really like when you talk like this to them. Like, this isn't the way to go about it. You were literally just hitting on me, trying to get with me, and then all of a sudden I'm ugly. It's
You're like genuinely looking out for somebody, trying to, like, let them know that, hey, you know, like, I might not be interested anymore, but if you do come across a girl that you do like, maybe this is the way to approach it. Yeah.
To not approach it.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, like, you're giving him tips, like, how to approach it.
Like, it's really not that hard. Just, like, read it like as if you were the receiver. Yeah. Like, I know that adds more anxiety to the process, but it'll save you a lot more stress and it'll give you more opportunities by being open to that. Because it's like you throw out a fishing line, you don't get a fish. Don't get mad. It just didn't happen. It's fine. Yeah. Like, why would you make your whole day about this thing? Right. Like, I used to be like that, toxic, like really bad, where I would just obsess over every little word someone said, but I wouldn't dare, like, respond like that. Like, that's just, like, sir, you need help.
When you said the fishing analogy, I just thought of some guy pissed off throwing dynamite into the lake.
Yeah.
Right. That's them.
It's like, why are you polluting the earth even more? And, like, this man is just out there being, like, an oxygen waster, and, like, we let them live or whatever. But
there's a specific tree out there providing as much oxygen as that fool is wasting.
Yeah.
He has, like, a whole forest somewhere, hopefully. We might need it.
I hope so. I hope he has a plan in his house.
All right. Let's move on to the next clip. See, because they go through quite a bit of stuff in here. We're not going to get to it all. I would definitely recommend checking it out. Although definitely, if you're just, like, on the ship saying, no, I do not want to, like, even hear them be talked about in a way that's, like, kind of nice, then it might not be the thing for you, because the hosts are being very gracious in terms of having them on the podcast.
That's what it is, because I think what you said is probably the most honest, which is, yeah, if this girl met all the things that I like in a woman and she was black, I'd obviously date her. But I don't know if you feel the same way.
No. If she met my requirements, and her skin tone is irrelevant. But what I'm saying is that,
by the way, like, what are required, like
you should have just fucking stopped and then added the skin color. Like, you keep burying yourself, sir.
I feel like I used to have requirements, like, when I hadn't ever, like, had sex in my life. That's, like, the only time where I was like, oh, the girl I want to be with is like this and like that. And then after I was like, I'll be with anyone. Like, they're all pretty cool. I don't know. Like, I met some pretty bad people, but, you know, you live, you don't necessarily love, but you just keep going forward.
Keep living.
I just kept dealing with a sample of that here and there with the people I was involved in. Honestly, my standards were always just kind of like, you know, don't be a serial killer. Don't,
That's a pretty easy standard to meet.
don't
I'll be
basically
honest.
don't be that too.
Okay,
Don't-
well that, I mean,
like that leads to people being violent, like to me. And if you think I'm dramatic for that, understand that I'm on the other end of it, and I have experienced
just
quite a
like
bit.
we mentioned on last week's episode, I wouldn't be as open about accepting responsibility for my own actions as a man, and like just the stuff that men are capable of, and like not really making it personal on me, just kind of like trying to move forward, if it wasn't for you. And that's something I mentioned last time, where a lot of your experiences, they affect me a lot because I care about you a lot. So just it sucks that it has to be that way, because before I might have been way less sensitive to it. And you would say insensitive. I would have been insensitive to it, not less sensitive. It's just, it would have been bad. I'm a much better person now.
Most of the time, most of the girls that I've dated just didn't fit that parameter of.
So here's the thing. Like
You know what
my
I'm saying?
buddy right now who's trying to find a Jewish girl, right? He might be in this room, and he's trying so hard to find a Jewish girl.
Yeah.
And he just found Latin Jewish girls.
Ooh.
And he goes, oh my God, they got the whole Latin thing, and they're Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden the Latin thing is kind of like a preference, right? They're so sexy, they're so intimate, there's like
Spicy.
this spicy real connection. Now, there's nothing wrong with you saying, I like the Latin thing, right? Now you're putting that affect on all Latin women, which is not necessarily the case, but you want a Latin girl who is Jewish, right? So is it possible to put a cultural affect on a race? Maybe when you guys were speaking about race, you were really speaking about a cultural thing. Because if you made a girl from Lagos, Nigeria, they might act completely different than a girl that you're meeting from South Florida, a girl that you meet from California, a black girl, etc. Like, there's not going to be this monolith amongst black women, right?
I would say.
Asking,
No, I would
This
say
to
like.
both of y'all.
I like how they can't really, they're just
They're like treading the water.
yeah, I just feel like they're not confident in what they're saying. And
I think in their heads it's like dark is dark, because they're really like not really considering that people from Lagos are still, black people, but they're kind of like trying not to think that it's the same person, but in their heads it's probably like the same thing, where it's like it's the shade that matters to them.
yeah, I mean, it seems like all over the world, it's just something we're still trying to not heal from, just like
Work on.
Yeah. Although some places better than others. I'll be honest, like every time I go to Mexico, there's like you could just tell, it's kind of sad. Like there's street people, just like homeless people, but they look different. Like they don't have belongings like over here in the US homeless people got shit on them.
Yeah.
They got
like a cart.
Yeah, I feel bad,
Some
but
blankets.
I try to give them a jacket or something. I have a couple extra. I don't mind.
Right.
But like Mexico homeless people, nothing. Like the clothes on their back, they'll be sitting down, and if you're able to give them something, they'll be very happy. But they're all dark colored people. They're all very they look indigenous, and it's like you see that, and it's like apparent. There is no light colored people that are homeless. There's no light colored people that are working like remedial jobs. It's really weird.
But do you think that that's something that's just specific to that region, or do you think that's something that's more around the world?
I think it's all around the world in its own form.
And it could be like, even in that region, it might not be everywhere.
Yeah.
Because like I'm speaking about specifically Mexico City.
Right.
It's, second biggest city in the world. So like I'm just using it as a gauge, because if it's like that in that city, at least it's probably gonna be similar to that all over the
Like in
country.
certain places, yeah.
And definitely in certain places like Spain, I'm sure it's the same thing. I mean, I feel like a lot of that mindset's a colonial mindset that we inherited from people from Spain coming in, colonizing my family members.
Your family members.
Yeah, colonizers.
Well,
That's actually, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no worries. A quick note on that is like the more you dehumanize brown people, the easier it is to like get other people who are lighter to enslave them. So that's kind of like the mindset that the colonials had to put in order to take over. And keep taking over.
So just because that makes me think, like, so technically these guys are the type of guys they'll in a heartbeat try to make a woman feel less than she is.
Yes.
To have the upper hand. That's like their whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of like something that they preach. Like they want men to feel like they're the ones that are in charge of dating, not the woman. And like, okay, like I get what they're trying to say. Like, you know, maybe they want you to be confident in like who you are, but there's definitely a line. Like you can be confident, but there's like been moments even in this podcast where he's like, yeah, you should never let the woman feel like she's safe. Like she should always feel like she needs to be on her toes around you, and that there's someone that could replace her.
That's some
in a
rapey
second.
shit.
And that, like, I expect that from people in high school, where it's like, oh, you can't seem like you're in it all the way. Like you gotta like play it to the chest or some shit. Like, I don't expect it from like grown men actually spitting this shit out for younger people to like consume and like actually try out there. You know?
No, the thing with that too is that it is grown men or men who aren't grown. You know, older men who aren't grown that keep.
They're the
passing
type
this
of
on.
men that if you say like, "Oh, I've evolved," they'll be like, "Oh, you fucking poser." I don't know. Like they'll complain. It's not something that they're about.
Right.
Let's see.
Where you're raised will determine how you act for the most part, right? So Caribbean girls are different from girls from the U.S. versus like Nigeria. So it is culture, man. Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I want to mention too. At least Fresh, to some extent, like some of the things I like him more than I like Fit. I don't know.
Right.
I just want to throw that out there. I don't like either one of them at all.
Yeah.
But
I think he like is more like trying to listen to your point and not necessarily just be on the defensive the whole time. He's more like, okay, well, yeah, like I said what I said, but at the end of the day, like this might be how I feel, and even if it isn't, like for me, something I took from this was like, this is sometimes why it's super like hard as a creator to like build a paywall behind like one certain belief, like you know what I mean? Because if you do, you put yourself in that box, and people are always gonna think of you as like they're always gonna be fresh and fit. They're always gonna be the guys that teach men how to be like how they said from Sims to pimps. So
actually,
yeah.
I just want to mention in their training that they have, one of their things is like when you're starting your business, you have to use the Grand Theft Auto Vice City font for your business.
There you go.
That's like an actual detail in their training.
GTA baby.
I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, see, like it's very dangerous, like because well, not dangerous, but you shouldn't like just put yourself in a box. Like be more diverse and be open minded, and like sometimes that's like the hard part of putting yourself on the internet, right? Because like you don't want to be seen as like the people who are only know about this and only know about that. So
yeah, you're just like you said, you're put in a box. Like you can't grow from there. And these guys aren't interested in growing. I don't feel like
no.
Like Fresh is still not saying like he's not owning up to the situation. And I mean, it wasn't really his to own up to completely necessarily, but like I can tell the other guy Fit. He's like, it's the same thing as the podcast that this started from. Like he's shutting down and he's just like got his blinders and he's like, nope, I don't care about the joke. It was a joke, but I don't. But it's actually my preference, and it's like make up your mind.
Yeah, because even if they wanted to like come out of that mindset one day, like let's say for whatever reason, like they met a really nice girl that they really ended up liking, and you know she showed them like that not all women are like animals and predators, like they say, like they literally say like they think that all women are predators.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't step out of that box anymore because you're like you said, you have a paywall behind you that believes everything that you already said.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I mean, I don't want to make things political necessarily, but that's how a lot of political commentators that are taken off the internet, once they go onto their own website behind a paywall, they get stuck becoming worse and worse.
Yeah, because they have to keep feeding like the minds that are supporting them.
Yeah, exactly.
Dang.
Like, I don't think Fox News would ever be able to air, even if they were progressive. I don't think they'd ever be able to do it because their whole set of people would just they would just like leave straight up.
Right, yeah.
What are you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm looking for certain traits first, and then obviously, you know, her race is irrelevant if she matches certain traits that I'm looking for in a woman. But what I'm saying is that most of the women that I've dealt with just don't tend to be black, and it's not something I necessarily go for.
That black women tend not to have? This is a dangerous question, but I have to ask.
I mean, there's obviously we know the stereotypes, which I won't even go into right now, but a lot of the time it doesn't necessarily match with what I'm looking for.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Wait, quick question for y'all in here. Have you ever dated a black chick?
Yeah.
Have you?
Only Indian girls.
Have you?
That's why, again, I have.
So, if you were to prefer a girl, would you date her? Question for you.
I don't look at. I'm like race doesn't come into play. Like I just look at the traits. Like you guys, that's why I don't understand how you don't see an issue with what you said.
I like how he went to him just to be like, hey, like,
He
would
tried,
you?
He tried to get like a save from another black man, but he's
He came
he's
to the
an
wrong-
evolved person. Like he didn't.
Because you both just said, hey, I look for traits first, like personality traits, and it doesn't matter her skin tone. But then in the clip, you guys are saying, I don't date black. I don't date dark. I don't fuck with Shaniqua's. Like, you're just talking about race in that entire clip. So how do you not see the problem with the clip
Well,
when
hold
you
on.
both just say, hey,
Notice,
I go for personality
You said
first?
LaShonda and LaQuisha.
And you said you don't do dark.
That was a joke, bro.
Hey, oh, so
That was a joke. Like, obviously it's a joke.
I think there's a lot of
You're
reading
taking
into
it
this
too
like clip right
personal.
now. Like it's like
That's here's what I think though. I think
I
you
do
guys,
believe.
like-
I do believe.
it's a,
But I don't get what they mean. Like if it was a joke, just why aren't you just saying like maybe it's a bad joke? Like he's so dead set that it's like a joke and it's okay if it's
It's
just
like
a
he's
joke.
defending a joke, but like the joke is like the thing. I don't know. I feel like it's like lawyers who like defend like rapists or pedophiles. It's like, listen, he's a human. He breathes oxygen like all of us. It was a joke. It was a joke.
It was.
It was a joke. Like,
Please, it was a joke.
please, it was a joke. Give my client 2 years. I don't know. But the way they're like defending themselves, it's like they keep going back and forth and they're not consistent. So that means like to me that like they're not confident. And the more angry and the louder he sounds, specifically the one that has his hands like that, fit or whatever.
Yeah, that would be fit.
So like the way he's responding is just like completely defensive, completely unconfident. And that to me means someone that I'm not able to like be at the same level intelligently. Because for me, it's like you're not even considering the fact that it sounded like this to other people. Because I could be saying any joke, I could be saying some racist stuff, and I'll just be like, oh, it's just me. It's just my preference. It's just how I talk. It's just the way I was like raised. And instead of questioning why I'm like that, why I'm thinking that way, I'm just completely defending myself against people who are clearly like telling me, like, you need to think about this a little more.
Yeah.
If anything, his mother he should have met my mother at least to be questioned and interrogated by her. Because my mom would tell him, like, did you think that was a good decision to say that? Why are you saying it's a joke now? You wouldn't have said it before.
Gil's mom would be very similar, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, my mom's pretty strict. But yeah, I think like the comments like on the video, they kind of like shared the same sentiments like as like we do. I think most people just assume that like these guys probably have just been hurt in the past so much that
that's
they
like
like
my
have
first
to create
thought.
like this like type of like front,
facade.
yeah, to make themselves feel like okay. But either way, I mean, there's still no reason to be that way.
Yeah, like especially the fit guy, I feel like he specifically has been like hurt. It's almost, I feel like it's some like young trauma, like maybe something happened when he was a little kid, because like I don't know if I'd get that hurt from relationships the way that he's acting. But then again, I don't know. Like I've been lucky enough to be in decent relationships and now wonderful relationships, so it's like who knows, you know, like some guys out there might have it way worse than I have.
Yeah, and the takeaway I get from what you just said is just like, what was I gonna say?
The takeaway from, oh man, I wish I could be better at this. You saved me a couple times last episode.
Damn it. Because I had a pretty good thought. Oh yeah, I wanted to point this out, but another thought came in when you said what you said, so I'm gonna say the other thought, and maybe the new thought will come in.
There we go.
Hope for the best. Probably not gonna happen. But like what I find interesting about this podcast is the way he's talking about women. He's not even mentioning the traits. Like he's not really talking about the person. And this is where I feel like funny about this, that they're just clowns for me to look at this point. Like the two comedians are clearly the comedians, but the two guys in the middle are the clowns.
Like the jesters.
Yeah, they're just kind of like, okay, keep digging yourselves in the same hole and we're just going to coddle you.
That's what they've become too, because like now they started going on more podcasts and now they're basically a laughing
Now it's
stock.
like a publicity stunt. Like we said something super like crazy so that we could become more relevant. And I'm not going to say that they weren't relevant before, because they obviously were. Like I think their Patreon is like super well supported and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I think they're on their Twitter bio. It says that they're like the #1 men's health like podcast.
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
like
I
on
don't know
Patreon
if,
and stuff, right? Yeah.
yeah.
See, so like they were already very famous, but I think like this just adds to it because it's like, okay, well, as long as we go on there and make it seem like what we believe is what we believe, we're gonna get people to come follow us and at least check out our channel and look at it. And eventually, I mean, that's monetary value right there, right? Even if you disagree with them, like the fact that you viewed their video or whatever, you still made them money, right?
I mean, think about how many people might agree with them that now know of them.
And then they have children and they raise those children.
Yeah.
And then people have to deal with those children in school.
That's
And I make them cry in school.
Honestly, situations like these make me want to have kids. Even when I was like, I don't need to have kids. No, I'm like, I think I need to have kids.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see.
To have smart kids.
Yeah.
It's a joke, man.
I mean,
like,
that's a cop out.
Hopefully, smart kids. We don't know. I don't
Yeah,
want
you don't know.
to just say they will be smart.
They are smart.
They are.
I mean, have you actually talked to Luis? No, I'm just kidding.
We do work together.
I know.
Yeah.
It's a cop. Like if your show is educational and I'm trying to help people, and then when I say something wrong, oh, that was a joke.
I run around the room.
we gotta
and
make
now
it
it's
entertaining too, bro.
I
You
think
know what I'm
ninja
saying?
stuff.
I'm
like,
always
we make
gonna be
jokes, bro.
on the
Yeah.
side. I'm always gonna be on the side of jokes, and that's just who I am. I'm a comedian. I support
We
that.
also
and
can't
support.
necessarily ask him to have the same empathy as us as
Yeah, of
comedians.
course. Al's not a
and that's
comedian.
a black dude.
Al's not a
so
comedian.
that's
But a
not
comedian, I always
So
got to defend
I can
jokes.
understand. I'm trying to be funny and I misword some shit. But then when I peel it back and I go to and I dig into what you're saying, it's still just as it's more troubling to me.
So say that. Like
Yeah.
say, hey, I misspoke. I told a bad joke. But you guys are doubling down and saying that you're like, there's nothing wrong with what I said.
Nope.
There's nothing wrong at all.
But
See,
I don't.
like,
but that's
that's
cap.
bullshit. That's
Y'all both
bullshit.
said that you date black women as long as they fit the things that you want.
It's not our normal
But
preference.
but like,
know,
but like, okay.
I mean, if a white man's yelling at you like that, it's a clear sign you should shut the fuck up.
Yeah. That's
Like-
cap. I love that,
That's
dude. I think that's about the end of that clip right there.
Yeah.
Because we could watch the whole thing. Honestly, the whole thing's pretty good. Let's move on.
dating marketplace, the way dating is between men and women. Girls
I just want to say straight up, like, the fact they're saying dating marketplace, I'm already just like,
Disgusting.
Jesus, bro.
have a crazy upper hand. You know,
Maybe it's because I'm married though. Gil, would you happen to?
I want to call it the marketplace. Like, what is this? The meat market? Like it's it's like the scene. It's like a dating. It's like a. I guess you'd want to call it like a dating. I don't know.
Pool.
Pool. Yeah. there you go.
Dating metaverse.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day, this is all a simulation.
Oh, or it will be soon.
Yeah.
We're gonna get on it.
Once we get VR goggles from the government.
Oh,
dude.
do a podcast.
I'm
VR,
actually
dude?
starting a petition. If you guys want to go ahead and sign that, we are all gonna be granted a free pair of Samsung VR goggles.
Hell
That way we can
yeah.
all divulge into the metaverse.
I knew you were doing big things.
Yep. That's
always
why I
knew
came
it.
on here.
Hey.
I mean, if it's the government, it's probably gonna be a Dell one.
Hey, we'll take Dell.
Huawei? No.
Huawei?
That's
Oh.
definitely not gonna happen here.
I'm saying and we've talked about this with how the world's changed with Instagram, online dating apps, etc. Women really have all their leverage when it comes to dating and relationships nowadays. So what we teach guys is to kind of go into this fight that you're talking about and be prepared. Most women are using rocket launchers and guys are going in there either
Knives.
bare fists or with butter knives, right? They don't really know what they're doing. So we tell them, listen, man, you got to understand how women operate, how they think, etc. And a lot of girls finesse guys. So we teach guys female nature, how to understand how women communicate versus how men communicate, how to get what you want out of relationships without getting finessed. Because the thing between men and women is that men are trying to get sex, women are trying to get money, time, attention, resources, whatever. And both genders are leveraging, right, their asset to get the other commodity from the other without necessarily giving up their asset. Men want to get the box without necessarily having to go on dates and spend money. Girls want to get the money and the dates without necessarily giving up box. So
I don't like the word box. That's just like weird for me. I'm like, bro.
I feel like
That's like the just like stick it in the hole mentality. I'm just like, whenever I hear shit like that, I'm like, what is this,
Box.
bro? Damn it.
it's a delicate
I'm part of this.
dance between the two where you're going to try to
This is
you know,
your fault.
get what you want out of
This is my fault. Yes, exactly.
you did this to us.
Fuck.
dating. And unfortunately, most guys don't know how to navigate this properly, you know? So that's what we teach guys to basically fight fire with fire because girls are playing the game. Girls are finessing guys. You know, we have a whole sugar daddy epidemic going on right now. We have got a bunch of girls finessing dudes. So We teach guys how to fight fire with fire, honestly. And
Akash face looks like he's not having this, dude. He looks like he's like just shut
Their
the
sugar daddy
fuck
face.
up, bro. God damn, I wish I could punch you.
Like, why'd you put me in the room with these two motherfuckers?
you know, you got to know what you're doing when you deal with women because they're playing the game, so you got to play it as well.
But here's the thing. I got to get pushed back on that because here's the thing. I don't think that every girl that you're meeting is trying to finesse. I do understand what you're saying. Not every. And I think most, to be honest with you, like if you're charming and you're down to have a good time and have fun, they want to have fun too. I think most women are dealing with such boring guys that if you're an actual guy that's funny and entertaining, their eyes light up and they're so down to enjoy your time and your company. And I think most women are actually entering these relationships insecure. They're going to fuck it up. They're going to be, oh, am I going to be too clingy? Should I not call him every 3 days? I think it's actually like to a guy's detriment to think of women as these people that you're fighting, so to say. Like, these women are more nervous than you. Once a woman likes you, she's terrified she's going to fuck it up. She's calling her friends. She's calling her father. She's calling her mother.
But Andrew, you got to get to that point. So like, the
that
thing
point is
that,
a 30-minute conversation.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm going to
here's the
marry this guy.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I love that men are talking about the females' perspective, like as if they're
one thing I do want to I mean, that's true. I mean, I appreciate their view on it, at least, especially Andrew's view, because he's at least saying like, come on, dude, like
don't think of all girls as like the same.
Exactly. Like, obviously, like even that's being like generalizing, because not all women are going to be that insecure when they're dating,
right?
You know, but I think he's just said he's just telling like, bro, you can't tell me that there's like there's a lot of women out there that would feel the same way that these men are gonna feel, essentially, you know.
Yeah.
The same way that they're trying to help their men Patreon members to like become better, as they put it.
You don't become the better with them.
No.
That's all I'm gonna say. You don't become a better person.
And I
with
think
these guys.
what Drew said was pretty fair. Like most women, like if you're like a nice guy and you're, you know, not like thinking the way that they are, I mean, they'll give you like a shot. Whether it's not, maybe it's not always a date or something, but I think most girls are open to having conversations with other people as long as like the conversation itself is like one, like not super sexualized right away, and two, if it's just like somebody that comes off like with the perspective that isn't, oh, you're trying to hurt me, because like I think we can all sense that, like men and women, like if you meet somebody and they're like super like you know, have their shell up, it's hard, it gets a little bit unmotivating to like keep that conversation going. But then once you meet somebody that's like, oh, you know what, like yeah, I've been hurt, but I'm not gonna generalize like every person, like every man's gonna treat me this way and every woman's gonna treat me this way, but I'm still gonna be a little defensive. You're like, okay, well at least you're open-minded enough to like have a conversation with me and let me, you know, try to be the best version of myself to you in some aspect. But then again, at the end of the day, there is also from both sides like people that just want one thing. I mean, I think we're adults and we can all agree and say that there's been moments where we've met somebody and we've thought, well, I want sex out of this. That's all I want. I mean, let's just be honest and be true. I mean, I can definitely feel that way, you know?
Yeah, I mean, obviously now, because like Steph and I are married, that's something that that doesn't run through our heads, but like definitely in the what's that?
Sorry, I made a funny face to the camera and I was just like, wait, no.
But yeah, I mean, when I was going out dating, like Tinder's there for a reason, you know, like, and like I always thought, like, yeah, it's kind of intimidating to be on there, but like a lot of people that I know that aren't on there because they're like, nah, that's not the thing for me. I'm like, just do it. Like, honestly, especially if you're having those urges where you just do want to have.
Yeah, or like, honestly, if you're scared to talk to people, it's a really good way to like learn to speak to people.
Yeah,
because like these are literal strangers. Like 90%, I would say like 50. No, 90% of the time they're literal strangers, and like it just takes practice sometimes. Like just because you fail and you know someone doesn't like you or whatever, that doesn't mean that you're like not
you're not
a catch.
Yeah, you're not a wantedness like something.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah. Someone's gonna want you. It just takes some time to find that person.
Yeah, I think the people I've met that have had most successful relationships, or at least where they've had the best chances of dating, are people who like themselves.
Yeah, you have to learn to love yourself before you can love somebody else.
Yeah.
The energy they give off is, I don't like you, but I'm still gonna try to dominate you as a woman. And so for me, that's like a no go. Because for me, it's like when I was dating, I was looking really for conversation. When we started talking, it was nice, and it led to more because you were open to talking about stuff. You were open to talking about your traits and like how you can work on them.
My
And then I
fuck-ups.
was open about talking about my traits and like how needy I am, how how aggressive I can be, because like I at least like put it out on the table. And then these guys, like I hate the perspective because like you guys said, it generalizes women into one population. And the thing is that any woman out there is just any person, and like they are all people, so you need to treat them as such. So with the way that men talk to women, like on those dating apps where they get finessed or where they get like scammed, it's like a lot of the times I think it's guys who come off really strong that it becomes easy to fool them. And like I know that's a mean thing to say or whatever, but the thing is that you need to come off like you're talking to a stranger, because that's literally who you're talking to, a stranger. You don't know who's on the other end. You don't know who's the other receiver, or like, and if you start off strong and like talking about like how you're going to take them out, how you're going to do this, and then like they go and meet the girl and it doesn't look like the girl they were talking to or whatever. But the thing is, like, you should have known if something was up. You should have like just being yourself and be as like honest, like talk to me like you would talk to your friend, because that at the end of the day, if you get in a relationship, that's what you should be going for. You should be able to talk to your partner as a person.
Yeah. What I just get the feeling they're not looking for a partner.
Yeah.
And I mean, sorry.
And for me, even when I wasn't looking for someone, if someone talked to me like a person, even more reason to be with them. Like even like as a quick hookup.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why wouldn't I want to like accidentally reproduce with someone who's logical, someone who's kind, or at least like a decent person? And
that person could even become like a friend.
Yeah, they could become your friend, your buddy, or you could introduce them to someone else if it doesn't work out, or you could just have them as a friend. And if it turns into something else, that's your business. But the thing is that the way they take these opportunities, it's like the way that people give advice for jobs. And the advice for jobs a lot of the time doesn't work. Like the advice they would give us in high school was just always kind of stupid. And when we actually did it, it was just like it backfired, and then it led to a lot of disappointment. And I feel like that's the type of advice they're giving, because it's like at the end of the day, you still have to become a logical
you have to
person.
be a stable enough guy to represent yourself in a way where you are going to be attracted to people, and you keep going down this path and you're not going to be attractive to anyone. Like even your friends are going to be like, oh dude, I don't know if I could hang out with you. Exactly. Yeah.
And then like the need for sex, like I feel like that bugs me too more, because it's like I didn't do it until I was like 20ish.
Yeah.
And it's like for me, like it always weirded me out, the desire and the amount of steps and extreme things that people do to get sex.
Yeah.
Like that
I mean,
scared
in high school,
me.
I knew plenty of people that were having sex at like 13, 14 years old. I mean, I wasn't there with them, but they told me about it, and I'd just be like, oh, that's weird. I didn't get it. But I also was kind of a late bloomer. Like I didn't blossom until like my early 20s. So, but I think that's totally fine. Like that's something where like in today's culture, I feel like a lot of people grasp onto stuff like this because of that, because like there's this inclination on like sexualizing people, especially sexualizing kids. But like if you're sexualizing kids and they're with each other, they're gonna just be like pent up with all this like sexual energy too, especially when they're coming of age. Like I just think it's like a societal thing that we need to be better about. But
yeah, and I feel like not pushing like dating standards as little kids helps. Like my parents never did that.
Having normal conversations about sex with your kids is like a way to avoid that too. Like making sure they know what is allowed, what shouldn't be allowed, what you can tell people you're not okay with certain things, like
what age you're supposed to like hang out with.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah, SVU has traumatized me.
Law and Order.
Hold on, here's the thing. Most dudes are invisible to most girls. Women only see a small percentage of men. Most guys are virtually invisible to them. That's the reality.
So I think if you enter in with that mentality, that's how you're gonna see it. But I think if you enter with the mentality like nobody should be invisible to me, I'm the fucking shit. That girl's gonna figure that out.
Of course, but we gotta accept reality.
Yeah,
that,
it's
that a
reality.
lot
That
of
is
girls-
reality.
That is
Hold on.
reality.
So let me just add this right.
Like how Fit just kind of shut down after that.
Yeah, basically saying like if you're not the most attractive guy in the world, the girl's never gonna look at you. When I think that that's like the ultimate lie.
Yeah, I'm living proof that that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, like I think we've all, yes, right. I mean, look at this guy. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I mean, it's true. Like even me, like there's been girls that I would be considered out of my league, but I mean, they still liked me for whatever reason. But yeah,
It's the personality.
yeah, there we go.
It's the meat and potatoes.
That's what I tell myself at least when I cry myself to sleep every single night.
Listen, the outside is the plate. The meat and potatoes are what's inside.
No, you're not alone.
Right.
There was one last clip that I wanted to get to before we end it here, but it's just I went through the whole thing. There's a lot of stuff, like I said, but
Tons.
this stuck out to me quite a bit.
I'm just using that as a quote. But in general, like, you know, when a girl isn't necessarily, when she doesn't know where she stands with you, and there might be other women, you know, in the wing.
Yeah.
Look, and they've been going for like an hour and 15 minutes now.
At this point, yeah.
And like he's just like, he's going hard on the same exact thing.
Yeah, he doubled down, dude. He stayed true to his beliefs.
We're all feeling a kosh.
That's when they're on their best behavior.
We are all
It is
feeling
what
a
it is.
kosh.
Like, you think that's sustainable? Look, early on playing games, I get, dude. None of us are
No,
fucking
you're being
idiots.
upfront. You let her know.
We
You
get
let
it.
her know.
Early on, yeah, whatever. Being upfront, talking to other women,
Yeah.
so you don't get too emotionally invested because you might get hurt early on because you're both scared. That makes absolute sense. If you're telling me, if you're gonna get on this podcast and say I'm gonna get married and my wife is gonna know it's an open relationship, I have a hard time believing this. It's open for me. You are gonna be loyal
Absolutely.
to me.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. Okay.
You know,
We
you know
will
how many
see.
millionaires are like that though in the world?
I grew up
There's
Muslim, so you know,
There's many.
we
There's many millionaires.
Oh,
like
you
that.
got.
I grew up Muslim though. That I don't even know what to say to that. Just like kind of makes me a little upset.
The religious loophole where we just get, you know,
Yeah.
God is on our side. And
Yeah.
you say you grew up Muslim or you are Muslim?
I am, but yeah.
Okay. Practicing.
So, yeah. Well, no, I need to get back on it. You know,
So
I'm not
practice
praying
when
and
it's
stuff.
convenient. I got you.
Yeah, but
so I'm Muslim for multiple wives. But not Valley bacon at
Let me
breakfast.
get back on it. I'm gonna hit the mosque, but no, just in general, like I've always had that worldview that like a man can have multiple women, but not the other way around. Men and women are not the same whatsoever.
I don't think the
That makes sense.
Yeah, and see that's that right there was what I was like, oh, okay, so like there is like a big amount of misogynism because
Yeah.
it's like straight up, it's like no.
I mean, bro, he literally said men and women are not created equal.
Yeah,
Like, and waved his hands. Like,
he's literally calling a woman a camel.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's going on right here. It's disgusting. I'm disgusted.
we would disagree with you on
Yeah.
that. Like, I don't think women want that. I don't think there's women out there like I definitely want multiple men.
I agree with you on that.
And I think there's probably guys that for sure would be like, man, it'd be nice to have multiple women. But can I build the thing that I want with multiple women? I don't know. I don't think so.
I think you can. It's just hard. It's hard.
See, that's something I don't necessarily agree with either because I feel like just like men, even though they're like granted there's all these biological things that cannot be changed, like but even with that, I'm sure there's women out there that want to have multiple partners.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's like a valid point or not.
I think it depends on the person. Like
Yeah.
there are people who are polysexual, right? Or panromantic, along those lines. Basically, they open themselves up to more relationships that they can have with each person. And every relationship with each person is unique in its own way. That's how it's been explained to me, and that's how I want to see it as someone who does want to believe the people who call themselves that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, one thing is to want an open relationship. It's another thing is you're pan-romantic, where you're open to multiple partners at once. What he's talking about is more like him having the opportunity to be with multiple women, but not the women being with multiple men. And that to me is just like, you're literally like just still dividing the genders. You're still dividing men and women, however you want to see it, because it, like, you didn't blur those lines. You didn't think about what you were thinking. You just accepted it and you moved on. And then so now you're still thinking men and women aren't equal. And you continue to think that without taking the time to evaluate it. And what I've learned from other people who are Muslim, who study the Quran, the Prophet Muhammad, like, he wanted people to be educated. He wanted people to question their beliefs and build from that. What this man is doing is not that, he's not growing. And that's how I know, as people who study the Quran and people who practice, that religion. And the women who I've talked to, they say, like, my parents expressed that education's the first thing, which is why they sent me over here to study. And I met someone from Saudi Arabia. And I mean, with their experience, it was their unique experience. I'm not saying all women in Saudi Arabia experience this, but the ones I did, they're like, my dad's very expressive about me studying, and I'm going to get a master's next year, and I'm going to do this and this. Like, they heavily believe in themselves because they grew up in that culture. And with that education, to know that they are capable of more.
Yeah.
And so the concept there, like, I get it. The way he sees women as men as not equal is like, maybe they think differently. That's where they don't see themselves as equal. Because at the end of the day, men and women, mostly men, created this sexist society. They're the ones who put these standards on us. They want to continue them.
And that's the thing that's basically the end of the clip there. But when guys tell me that the world isn't a misogynistic place, and I get like where they're coming from, in my mind I'm like, look, it's been a man's world from the very beginning. Just throughout history, it's been led by men. It's been a society for men. It's like, you're not going to tell me that we've wiped that away in the last 100 years. Like, there's no way. It's just like, we have so much more progress to go through. And I think, like, admitting it to ourselves and just kind of like opening up, like, okay, well, we are where we are, but we just got to keep moving forward, like, is the best thing to do. I think a lot of guys out there are not willing to do that, like, at all. I know a lot of people that if they hear the term toxic masculinity, they feel threatened immediately. Although I am trying to get away from using masculinity or femininity. Like, I use those terms a lot, and I feel like they shouldn't even be necessarily things. Like, I feel like people can act however they want to act,
right?
In general.
Yeah, I can definitely agree. Like, I think I'm the type of person where, like, I don't see that just because, like, in myself I'm not really that type of person. So, like, I don't see myself as misogynistic at all. I think I'm pretty, like, laid back and, like, willing to accept things for how they are with whoever that person is. I mean, like, I don't try to push things upon anybody. That's just never been my type of like outlook on the world. I've always just been myself, and that's it, But yeah, I think you guys are both right. I mean, like, you guys both, like, hit it on the head where you said, like, the world isn't going to change overnight. So, like, it's irresponsible to think that it did. You know what I mean? Like, to say, like, oh, like, we just changed in a day. That's not what happened. Like, things take time. And I think that it's really important for everybody to understand that even if you do find yourself feeling this way about certain things, that there is possibility for you to, like, become better. And just because you do feel that way doesn't necessarily make you a bad person off rip. Because I think that we all go through processes in our life to become who we are at a certain age or a certain time. So you need to, like, give people the opportunity to be better, rather than just, like, think like, oh, this person feels this way right now, so I'm going to throw them into this group as, like, a bad person. Because ultimately, like, even though they're most likely going to be this way the rest of their life, like the two guys that are on this podcast, there is still an opportunity for them to change that. Like, what if one day they meet a girl and they're like, hey, everything that I ever said, like, it's just because I was young and I was naive and I never knew how to let my guard down. That's a possibility. And I think anything is possible. I've seen way crazier things in my life change, right? So yeah, but definitely, like, the way that they spoke about women and that they presented themselves in this podcast, they basically are creating the problems for women that they say women are creating for them. So they're basically just creating their own cycle. Yeah. And I think that in a way they kind of have to create that cycle, because if they don't, then I think it all just goes back to them not being relevant anymore. Because once they're not relevant, they don't make any more money, and they're like, well, I need to at least feed myself.
They can't like reinvent themselves in any way.
No, because you already have all this shit on the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there is there is room for redemption for them. It is possible. It just starts with them admitting the, like, doing a moral inventory of their morals. It's like, if you can write out your morals on a paper, then I feel like you have a good handle on your morals. So you write them out, like, do not murder, do not hurt people's feelings for fun.
Does a notebook count?
Yes, but write out your morals, pick what you want to keep. Ask yourself all the questions of the world, all the moral scenarios out there. For example, like, would you, like, steal that backpack, you know, if it was like the backpack that you wanted the most, you know, yes or no? And then ask yourself,
what's in the backpack though?
Exactly. Why do you want to steal that backpack? Why are you curious about the backpack?
Is it Luis's backpack? Because I don't want anything to do with that backpack.
Oh, if you knew what was inside, you'd think differently. Just saying. Take it.
Just old mail.
Right.
Yeah. So, like, with that, it's like, I say like a lot. I am so sorry.
Don't worry
everyone.
about it.
What was I on?
Something about Red Dead Redemption. That's a great game.
Redemption. There is a possibility for redemption, and maybe my brain was contradicting me by telling me there wasn't. So that's why it made me forget.
Yeah.
So that's my feminist brain. I'm kidding. That's my aggressive brain.
It's Well, part of me wants to say the same thing. Like, part of me wants to be like, especially Fit. That's kind of why I mentioned about Fresh, because Fresh seems like, if enough people around him are telling him he's wrong, he'll be like, yeah, I'm wrong. But Fitz, like, he looks like the type of guy that'll internalize it and go crazy.
Yeah.
Like, and do something, rage. And
It looks like he might kick you off his podcast or tell you to, like, be quiet.
He might get pissed if you call him angry.
He gives me those vibes.
He might discriminate against your whole ethnicity
There we
and
go.
specific, like,
wouldn't be the first
person. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the way they were talking about Latinas or whatever, like, it's like, it almost made it sound like it was a step up from Black women, and that kind of weirded me out.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why would you mention them as, like, the other option too? And then, like,
yeah, why can't it just be women? Why does it have to be like Latinas or Asians or
That's one thing I will say, and nothing against the podcast hosts, but there's no woman at all. Like, anywhere around here to.
I think for their own protection.
Oh, well, probably. I mean,
well, I think like the podcast itself has always been more funny. Like these serious episodes like this happen, like, I don't know, once every few months. And I'm like subscribed to Patreon for Flagrant too, so like I watch all the episodes, and to me they're just like hysterical. But it was really nice and really refreshing to see this. And like, even if you look at the comments, people were saying that too. Like, it wasn't all jokes. It was like actually something productive and discussing relevant things. Because most of the time we're just talking about like stupid stuff. Like
he said, like, doctors ain't shit.
Yeah,
and
like
stuff. I mean, I've seen some of Andrew Schultz's stuff, and there's some edgy stuff there.
Yeah.
But, you know, on that note,
I just want to say, the envelope.
Yeah,
you gotta push the envelope.
Oh, how can I do that now?
I don't know.
You can start by making yourself more comfortable with being uncomfortable with your misogyny, because we all have a little bit inside of us.
Yeah,
I know I still do to an extent, you know, and like,
well, I'm working on like, this isn't necessarily working on my misogyny, but a couple of things I'm proud of the last 2 days. I cooked on my own.
He does cook on a regular basis. It's not his first time.
It was not my first time. Yeah, that's true.
I'm like, the way you're making it sound is like, I cooked an egg and I flipped it.
This is cap. This is all cap.
No, it had been a while since, like, it's like a ritual, and I'm kind of like against having rituals, but with food, it's one of those things where you set it, you do it, you're a little more disciplined about it. Right. And I'm realizing I'm in need of discipline currently, so I think I'm gonna start working out, doing a little more of those types of things to just keep me
level-headed.
What
was the second thing you were proud of?
Well, I cooked twice.
Oh shit!
Proud once, proud twice. Damn. And hey, we're recording tonight, so I'm happy about that.
You reorganized the whole place.
Yeah, there was a lot that got done.
If you guys see this, like, on the video cast of the podcast, just so you guys know, we are in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
This is a yacht. This is not what you think it looks like. This is a yacht.
When Steph said reorganize, she meant move into a bigger yacht.
Yeah.
This looks like the same stage, but it's not.
No, it's not. So the next podcast, if it looks the same, it's just a green screen. Just so you guys know.
That's true.
None of this is real.
Take off your VR goggles because it's time to go to sleep. Because this all was a simulation.
And on that note, catch us at the next screen.
Right.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Actually, before we go, I do want to mention, Nathan, you know who you are.
This is yours.
This is yours.
And we want you to open it.
We want you to open it, so it'll be right here.
I'm speaking in future tense, but do you think he watched it?
Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, probably not.
The 4 views that we get on this podcast, 2 of them being me, 1 from my phone and 1 from my laptop.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'll even leave a few comments.
I don't see a comment on there.
Hey, chill.
All right. Till
He
next
is
time.
going to.
Oh, that's okay. Hey, we recorded this after we put it into YouTube.
Manifest.
What?
Catch you guys next time.
Peace.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Gil.